USB-C cables. How do they work and how to store them and how to make sure that they last as long as possible. So how they work is they have different cable types. You have the power cables and you have the data cables, and you will notice by the thickness of the cable generally what type of cable it is. So if they feel very thin, then you know there's not many wires in there, and it is mostly or most of the time a charging cable. So with the data cables, what you will have, just like with charging cables, is that they tend to bend. So if you have any charger that's close to the bed, or if you're connecting a controller to something and it's the port is on the back of the device or on the side of the device, the cable will sit like that. And if it sits like that for a while, you'll end up with some pretty bad stuff. If you look like this cable, this one has been held under an angle for a long time and it's all been exposed. Now this is not only danger, technically it has it, but it is also very bad practice. This is from my 7-year-old son, so he doesn't care about anything in that sense. But it's also pointing out a design flaw in some of the USB cables, because most of them are made to sit there in either a device and not be tossed like this. So you've got two main problems of this. The biggest problem is cable maintenance. So cable maintenance means how to store your cables and how to fold them. So storing of the cables, technically every cable should have these little protectors over them so that there's no dust going inside, because these pins are very fragile and you've got a lot of them inside the USB-C cables. And the second one is actually folding the cable. So a lot of people think, oh, I'll just fold it quickly, but if you look at this cable, it's perfectly round. That's why the Apple cables, they come packaged round. So if I would pull a little bit on these cables, I could make it go round. And as you can see, what I'm doing with my thumb is I'm guiding the cable to go in a round shape, because now it will not jump out of each other, it will just make it slightly bigger. This is the way to store the cable. So what you then can do is put some slight pressure on it with an elastic band or a cable clamp and hold the cable like this. And ideally for transport, you don't want the cables ends to touch anything, so you would want them on the inside of your bend. So what I tend to do is the mechanic's way or technician's way of rolling up a cable. That would be like this. So you follow the natural curve of the cable, and once you become nearly at the end, you just go like this and you have your cable nicely stored. But once you start to put a couple of these on top of each other, it's going to become a problem. So ideally you want a nice organized place where all of the cables can lay, and you want to make sure that this is not too tight, that it's all very loose. Because the tighter it gets, the more the strain comes on the cable, and you can damage the inside strands of the cable. So if I were to cut this cable, you would see that according to its spec is the amount of cables on the inside, and then the data cables, they also have very tiny wires in them, and depending on what speeds will determine how many wires inside one wire is. But if you move it around too often, it's gonna deteriorate, and you can measure that with a cable tester, which I showed in the last review. But this is one of the main issues that you want to keep an eye on with USB cables. So how do you know which cable is good and which cable is not? Well, it depends on your needs. So if you want something for fast charging or you want something for fast data, then I wouldn't cheap out on the cable. I would get a good cable. What does a good cable mean? It means a solid cable. A solid connector, and the most important point of all of them is good design. So you would think like this, oh, it's a good design. Yeah, it's a fine design. I mean, if you look at Apple, it's fine. If you look at Corsair, which get them stuff made somewhere, I don't know, but they use this kind of a rubberish stuff, it's also fine, but it's not meant to be bent like this. So if you want to prevent that, or if you've got a situation where you've got children or some elderly people or some office type work where you need to bend cables, then my suggestion would be to look for a cable that is like this. So you want an extra long protection rubber. Now if you look at the Samsung one, it's half the size. If you look at the Apple one, I think it's even shorter because Samsung was a little bit bigger than Apple. But yeah, look at the flex difference. So there's a way bigger natural curves than there is if I do it like this, because I can already feel it nick there. And you may think, oh, I can't see it on the video. Yeah, but you can't feel it. So if you would just apply the pressure, you can feel when it starts to bend too much and apply pressure on a specific point. And if that point then happens to go like this too much, you could lose speed, charging speed, and also it could, depending on the cable, become a hazard, because if it is a high power in delivering cable, not like any of these, then you could send too much current through the cable and it could melt it in worst case scenario. So yeah, these thicker cables do have a second issue, and that is rolling the cable up nicely. It's a little bit more difficult, and as you can see, they can packaged like this. So there is a slightly different shape to it, to the cable naturally. But if you were to flatten out the cable a couple of times, and this hurts because it's braided, but if you would wear proper gloves to flatten out the cable, you could actually put in a nice round curve like so. Then if you were to wrap it around, you can wrap this one once, and then if you have enough from the other room, you can wrap this one around as well. So as you can see, pretty decent structure. And this is how to organize all of your cables. And trust me, if you do this, for one, it's easier for the next person who grabs it out of the drawer. Secondly, your cables will last way longer. And third, it just looks nicer when you look into the drawer and it looks like this. It just looks a little bit better. You can also keep them stored to the side. You can also choose to put a cable holder onto them. Keep the website, an eye on the website, because we are updating some cable holders there. And yeah, that's the main cause of broken USB cables. Now, some cables are made from this PU, and they get very dirty, and especially Apple. Now, the new ones, they're not made from the like rubberish texture anymore. They're made from the also braided like nylon. But I'm a mechanic, so as you can see, the cable gets kind of dirty. So I can imagine everybody who's in the mechanic shops, they have cables looking like this. Now, there is no real easy way to clean this, but there is an easy way to clean this one, and that is just with glass hex or glass cleaner or something that cleans glass. You could also use isopropanol, but watch out when using it because it can deteriorate the plastics or the coatings that are on there. Now, if you've got lightning connectors, for example, the main problem with them is that these pins get very dirty. Now, what you can do is you can use also the Glassix to clean it, but I would make sure to take off all of the remaining fats or oils that are on there with some isopropanol to make sure the connector is clean. As you can see, this one is pretty dirty, but often the pin here, one of the power pins, they get kind of corroded or oxidized. It's basically the same thing, but you know what I mean. And that can cause also for charging issues and data issues. Now, most of the people will go and scratch it off like this, but the best thing to do is get a tiny, it's called a glass brush, and you can basically clean off all of the soot off the copper. But you just have to watch out that you don't put too much pressure, that you grind away at the plastic or the metal around it. And then once it's cleaned up, you can just stick it in your phone and it should work again. Pro repair tips. Now, for the USB-C, it's a way different headache. These are very difficult to clean. So I would not advise to clean USB-C ports or connectors yourself. That's why it's very advisable to have dust covers. Now, I haven't got any here that I can quickly show you, but basically, like I said in the beginning of the video, it's a piece of silicone, a piece of rubber that fits around it. And you can also get them that fit around the cable that you can reattach. Now, we're going into an age where USB cables are going to be more and more and more important, and one cable is going to look the same as another cable, but it's going to do something totally different. So keep that in mind. New cables, old cables, ugly cables, cables from China, cables from wherever in Asia, or European cables, check them. If you've got a nice one, take care of it. And yeah, if you would want to already save a cable that is breaking, for example, just to finish off the video, like this one, you've got multiple ways of doing it. Either you can heat shrink it, which is a little bit difficult, but if you've got a good crimp to shrink ratio, a good crimp ratio, you should be able to do it. You can try the putty. Some people put putty around it, but then make sure to clean everything really well before you do that, and make sure that the internals have no actual internal tears, so that you can just see the shielding. So this one is already slightly damaged, but there is also another cool trick. What you can do is, if you have a pen and the pen has a spring inside, you can remove the spring, and what you can do is basically this one I cannot remove it, but there is, as you can see in the pen, there is a spring. You can take it out, and then if you get the one where the smallest winding is, you can wind it slowly over the cable, and you can use some electrical tape, and that gives it slightly more of a rigidity to it. So cool trick. I can't show it, but I will make a short video about it. So yeah, that's all I want to say about USB-C cables and how to treat them and how to store them, and basically in dummy talk how they work. So yeah, enjoy.